scientists begin to tune in, they look down through the wheel of time. They can tell not only what the people on this earth are thinking, but they can tell what their children are thinking, what their unborn children's children are thinking, what their unborn children's children's children are thinking. They can look right down through the wheel of time and tell minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, for 25,000 years exactly what is going to take place. And they discovered that in the year 8,400 to come, they would register among the 5 billion black people, 70% would be satisfied and 30% would be dissatisfied. And out of that 30% would be born a wise black scientist named Yakub. And Yakub would teach among these 30% dissatisfied, from whom he would come and create a new race, start a new world and a new civilization that would rule this earth for 6,000 years to come. So they brought these findings back to the king. It was put in the book, and by the way, that which is written to last for 25 years is called Holy Quran. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that this was put into the history, and then when the year 8,400 came, Yakub was born. When Yakub reached the age of 6 years old, he was playing in the sand one day with 2 pieces of metal, 2 pieces of steel, at which time he discovered what is known as the law of magnetism, that unlike attracts and like repels. 2 objects that are alike repel each other, like 2 women repel each other. But man and woman attract each other. Unlike attract and like repel. Yakub discovered this. So Yakub knew that all he had to do was make a man unlike any other people on this earth, and because he would be different, he would attract all other people. Then he could teach this man a science called tricknology, which is the science of tricks and lies. And that this weak man would be able to use that science to trick and rob and rule the world. So Yakub turned to his uncle and said, when I grow up, I'm going to make a man who will rule you. And Yakub's uncle said, what can you make other than that which will cause bloodshed and wickedness in the land? And Yakub pointed to his head and said, I know that which you know not. Yakub was born with a determined idea to make this man, because it had been predicted 8,400 years prior to his birth that he would be born to do this work. So he was born with this idea in him. And when his uncle realized that this was he about whom it was prophesied, his uncle submitted. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that Yakub went to school in the East. He studied the astronomical sciences, mathematical sciences, and the germination of man. He discovered that in the black man there are 2 germs. In the black man there's a brown man. In the black man, or the black germ, which is the strong germ, there's a weak germ, a brown germ. Yakub was the first one to discover this. And Yakub knew that by separating that brown one from the black one, and then grafting the brown one until it became lighter and lighter and lighter, it would eventually reach its lightest stage, which is known as white. And when it got to that stage, it would be weak. And because it was weak, it would be susceptible to wickedness. And then Yakub could take that weak man that he made and teach him how to lie and rob and cheat, and thereby become the ruler of all the rest of the world. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that Yakub began to preach. At the age of 16, he began to preach over there in Arabia, in the East. He preached among the 30% who were dissatisfied and got many of them to follow him. As they began to listen to Yakub's teachings and believe it, his teaching spread. His followers grew, and it created confusion in the land. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that so much confusion came into existence over there that they threw Yakub's followers in jail. And as fast as they were thrown in jail, they taught more people. So the teaching spread in jail. Finally, Yakub was put in jail under an alias. And one day the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that the thing began to get out of hand, and the authorities went to the king and told him that they couldn't control these people, but that they had the leader of the people in jail right now. And the king said, take me to him. And when the king went to the jail where Yakub was, he greeted Yakub. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Yakub. I know you're Mr. Yakub. And Yakub said, wa alaikum salam, I am Yakub. And the king said, look, I come to make an agreement with you. I know that you are the one that it is written or predicted would be on the scene in this day and would create a new race, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. But in order for us to have peace, we want to make an agreement with you. In order to stop the confusion, and for there to be some peace in the land, we want you to agree to take all who will follow you and exile yourself out on an island in the Aegean Sea. Yaakov told them, I'll go, but you've got to give me everything that I will need to bring into existence a new civilization. You've got to give me everything I'll need, that which will last me. You got to supply me with everything I need for the next 20 years. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that the king agreed with Yaakov to supply him. The government of that day agreed to supply Yaakov and his followers with everything that they need for 20 years. And he says that you get this in the Bible where it says Jacob wrestled with the angel. Jacob was Yaakov. And the angel that Jacob wrestled with wasn't God. It was the government of that day. Angel only means a power, or somebody with power. When a man has wings, or when a man has his wings clipped, you say that he lost his power, lost his position. So wings only mean a position of power and prestige. So when it says that Yaakov wrestled with the angel, angel is only used as a symbol to hide who it was Jacob was really wrestling with. Jacob was wrestling with the government of that day, and he made the government of that day give him everything he needs to last him and his followers for 20 years. Just like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is telling the government of this day that they got to give us everything we need in our own separate territory to last us for 20 to 25 years. You say, well, so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that Yaakov agreed, the government agreed. Yaakov took all of his followers down to the sea. And he says that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that Yaakov took 59,999 of his followers down to the seaside, with himself made 60,000. He piled them in boats and took them out to an island in the Aegean Sea called Ceylon. In the Bible it's called Patmos. When you read in the book of Revelation where John on the island of Patmos for the word of the Lord, that was Yaakov. What was John doing on the island of Patmos? John was Yaakov. John was out there getting ready to make a new race. He says, for the word of the Lord. What was the word of the Lord? The word was that in the year 8,400, a new man would be made. A new race would be made. And when Yaakov and his followers got out there, his followers realized that Yaakov was wiser than any man of his day. And they recognized him as a God. He was a God to them. So when you look there in the Bible where it says, and God said, let us make man, what was Yaakov do? Not the supreme being. It wasn't the supreme being who made the sun that said, let us make man. When the supreme being made the sun, he said, let there be light. He showed he was supreme. He was independent. He needed no help, no associate. But when it comes to making a man, that God said, let us make man. He didn't speak with independence because there were two different gods. God, the supreme being, made the light. His word is being. That's how he made things. But Yaakov, who was a lesser God, he says to 59,999 of his followers, let us make man. Let us make a man in our image and in our likeness. We're going to make a white man. Yaakov, this was Yaakov talk. Make him in our image and in our likeness, and give him dominion over the fowl of the air and the fish of the sea and the creatures of the land. And we call it Adam. It's only a name for the white man. The white man has taken mastery over the air. His airplanes rule the sky. His submarines and ships rule the sea. His armies rule the land. This was the man that was made 6,000 years ago, and the purpose for making him was so he could rule the world for 6,000 years. That's the white man. Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that first thing Yaakov did, he got his ministers, doctors, nurses, and cremators together. He gave them the law because he had to set up a birth control law. He told the doctors, whenever two black ones come to you to get married, stick a needle in their vein, take some blood, and go back and come and tell them that their blood doesn't match so that they can't get married. So he also said when a black one and a brown one come, let them get married. Or two brown ones come, let them get married. And then he told the nurse 9 months after they're married, when you go to deliver their child, if it's a black child, put a needle in its brain and feed it to a wild animal, let it be destroyed. But if it's a brown child, take that child to the mother and tell her that this is going to be a great man when he grows up, because he's lighter than the others. But to tell her that the child that